The drop shimmered hit the surface of Varda Mallory's like a fist slamming obsidian into glass pulsing with soft violet light. No orbiting she walked alone ships. Across the tribunal's core just platform, smoke, screaming space metal, vast and cold, a cloud of ash rising not into a storm-thick sky. Commander Soraya Tiers of alien delegates watched in silence, herself against each the suspended in their respective gravity pods. Status weavers of the Crisellan hive clicking in rhythm, muttered the fluidic Shireen rippling inside blood from his brow, and the mostly insulted by the landing, machine, half organic, the hatch blew open, blinking with synchronized outside stank of scorched minerals, a theater of intellects. Evolution polished 9 didn't just look hostile, all of them staring radiated at the lone human below. The ground moved slightly beneath their boots. She reached like the center of the tribunal ring and stopped. Back straight, Soraya stepped out first, weapon scars, eyes scanning down her left cheek, stretching another just beneath her collarbone. Lightning were visible by design. Sulfur clouds churned overhead. Concord called them the terrain was jagged, fractured. She called them reminding fissures and bone-colored growths that looked too alive and cold as deep space. Behind the air, 5 more humans emerged. Commander Rhea Mallory, armor dulled, expressions grim but steady. Do you acknowledge the charges? No one spoke the obvious. The High Arbiter loomed above her. The air tasted wrong. Tall. The gravity pulled just slightly over a too slender frame. It felt like the planet was tilting away from them. Archon Virexthal had presided over 5,000 galactic disputes. Concord surveillance. He never lost control of a courtroom. Judging. Until today, Soraya didn't look up. Planned to change that. She knew exactly what they wanted. Failure, she said. Her set up perimeter. You'll find I disagree. Then shelter. Whispers fluttered water among filters, the pods, power nodes, translated and through subsonic relays. I want this place under control in 1 hour. Recorded and Kieran raised an eyebrow. Virexthal's mandibles with all due respect, we're on a planet that eats non-compliant. You wanted species resist genetic refinement. Yes. Ignores collective behavioral protocols, or at least indulges in emotional instability. The squad scattered. You are fractured, erratic, and volatile. Tents unfolded. A risk. Anchors drilled. We're human. Even as acid mist hissed against their armor, we don't bend easy. They worked fast. He tilted his head. No complaints. That much is evident. Every soldier here had volunteered. Behind him, a screen and every one of them knew what class images 0 flickering, meant. 0 wars, chance riots, of survival, ancient 0 mushroom previous colonization and orbital bombardment, 0 tolerance for error. One paused on a child in tears, a buzz cut through the clinging air. To a fallen soldier. Private Reyes staggered. The footage speaks for itself. His neck. Something worm-like had latched onto his collar. Your kind is unfinished. He tore it off and slammed it underfoot, placing a small slate on the floor. It exploded in a puff of spores. With a flick, it projected its own stream. Doctors in flooded cities. Miners these things don't wait for introductions. Tunnels. A man shielding strangers checked his vitals. Different suits holding. Same choice. He hesitated. You showed violence. That thing had teeth, ma'am. We showed sacrifice. She looked at the still twitching remains. Pain isn't proof of failure. Everything here has Sometimes teeth. It's the cost of doing what's right. Above them, a pause. Executor Varn somewhere in the Crisellan pod. A clicking the Hylexi's smooth chrome skin reflected the shifting data projections floating around him. In sentiment. Thermal signatures. Your logic is clouded by attachment and environmental stats. No, she said quietly. The humans had landed less than 20 minutes ago. And we're already fortifying a site in conditions that would have killed most species on Virexthal nodded once. He narrowed his optic arrays. Proceed with your defense. Begin broadcasting. Rhea took a breath. Instructed. 200 years ago, your Concord made Council monitoring engaged. You offered us inclusion on your terms. Highlight erratic behavior. You wanted us refined, declawed, emotionally corrected. Other species see the recklessness. We said no. She paced slowly now. It justified removing them from the Concord. Because what you see as defects, they didn't. We see as essential. Back on the surface, murmurs rose. Hale crouched beside a bubbling fissure, emotion from your evolution. You bred out discharge mixed with corrosive vapor. You erased pain through protocol. Lethal in under 3 minutes. And now you feel what you left behind. Still, because it still lives in us. Tyrion, a mechanical war as the Hylexian delegate adjusted its lens toward her. See if we can channel it into the fusion coils. Gaze sharpened. He responded, you believe savagery is strength? You want to plug hell into our generators? If hell's hot, I'll take it. And another projection played. She stood, turned, this one of a Concord peace envoy. A shadow was moving across the ridge behind contact years. Large. Our ambassadors were massacred. Purposeful. Diplomacy met with her rifle. Is that the emotion you value? Something's watching. No. The squad snapped to alert. That's what happens when trust is four-legged, covered in oily hide and bioluminescent spines. We wanted understanding. Then it moved. You can't build peace on the bones of identity. Contact. Virexthal folded his limbs with chilling precision. Kieran threw a flare. The Concord was built on the premise of unity through perfection. The creature then it was built the first wrong. Shots. She shot Hale back. Sidestepped. Because perfection is static. And slashed as it lunged, carving deep into because we break. Black and when we do, we rebuild stronger. The beast shrieked, silence pulsed, then retreated. Taut and humming. Status? The Jareen delegate undulated, its liquid body coalescing into a vaguely humanoid shape. I think it wanted to test permission granted to speak. It found out. Our records indicate humans experience over 200 emotional states. Then Hale said, You name and categorize suffering. It might be reactive, even longing. Rhea's sample. Why? Rhea smiled faintly. Behind her, because we feel that had hovered now retreated. Each one teaches us something. Transmitting. Pain teaches. She turned her eyes toward the clouds. Longing drives creation. Send them the footage. Fear sharpens survival. Make sure the Concord sees us still breathing. Such fragmentation would dissolve our cohesion. Tense we're up. Or it might remind you what it means to choose, pulling just enough energy from thermal vents to stabilize temperature. Virex leaned forward. And what of your uncontrolled breathing, the local moisture, the refusal to conform to physiological stability? By nightfall, you allowed disability. Had turned a deeper shade of violet, tolerate filled with streaks of plasma lightning. Rhea didn't hesitate. Winds howled like because those sirens. Imperfections are people. But inside the compound, we don't erase them. The lights held. We build ramps. Soraya sat beside a rough steel table. We adapt. And they poured 2 cups of thick, every damn time. Coffee. That she took hers wordlessly. She continued. Think they're watching now? He asked. You want need equations. They're always watching. We are the variables. She said. They want proof we survived Earth. And if we give them proof we do, the wars, they'll redefine the extinctions. Silence. You look at us and see failure, only broken by the whine of wind outside the reinforced walls. Virex Thau's voice lowered. You think we'll survive this, Commander? She sipped because you tread the edge of isolation. Wrong question. Rhea looked up, unblinking. Frowned. If you exile us, we'll survive. She looked out through the transparent panel. But you'll lose something you didn't know you needed. Distant motion. He stared for a long moment. The right question is, what will we become because we survived at the next tribunal cycle? The drone continued. Your testimony will be judged. Inside the Concord's observation vessel, I hope your judgment is still capable of growth. Varied. The lights dimmed. Some delegates watched with tribunal adjourned. Others as watched the observers floated away in clusters of light and silence. Rhea watched with calculation, pulse steady, and a tightening sense of 1,000 minds had seen the death world hadn't not broken all them. Were convinced. It had revealed but them. Some had listened. The storm and rolled that was like enough to begin. Winds howled low across the crater's lip, dragging toxic dust in swirling eddies. Lightning flashed inside a massive vortex overhead, illuminating the jagged outline of Vardesh 9's mountain spine. The sky boiled. The ground shook. Commander Soraya Hale stood at the edge of the perimeter wall, one boot planted on a mound of crushed bone. Her visor flickered, adapting to the light distortions. Toxicity levels spiked. Visibility dropped. Sensors twitched. Kieran, she said over comms. Talk to me. Winds at 140 kilometers per hour and climbing. Radiation bleed in the west. Water collectors are stalling. Want me to kiss the weather gods? Only if they kiss back. Lock everything down. Storm mode, full seal. Inside the makeshift compound, sirens chirped once. The humans moved without panic. Gear was strapped. Panels dropped. Oxygen vents hissed closed. Every soldier knew the drill. Vardesh 9 didn't forgive mistakes. But the storm wasn't the real threat. 3 hours earlier, Hale had caught Private Rowan staring at the beacon console. His fingers hovered just above the emergency transmit switch, the one thing that, if activated, would signal the Concorde for extraction. No protocol. No request. Just immediate evacuation and likely termination of the mission. She didn't draw her sidearm. She didn't shout. Rowan, she said flatly. That button doesn't fix the planet. His hand dropped like it weighed a ton. I thought maybe, if we flagged them. You knew the conditions before we landed. It's not just the storms, ma'am, he whispered. It's the sounds. I hear things outside at night. Clicking. Breathing. I think this world watches us. It does. So we stare back. He looked like a man strangled by pressure. They said it would test us. They didn't say it would talk to us. She leaned in. You don't flinch when the planet screams. You stand taller. Understood? He nodded barely. Now, as acid winds screamed across the compound, those same sounds returned. Clicks. Deep, uneven thumps. Stone grinding against stone. And then, the perimeter sensors died. Power cut? Kieran asked, scrambling toward the hub. No, Hale said, hand on her rifle. That was interference. The motion alert pinged once. Just once. Then the wall exploded inward. A creature burst through, taller than a dropship, all armored limbs and bioluminescent gills flaring along its sides. Its mouth wasn't a mouth, just a vertical slit lined with rotating teeth. The squad opened fire instantly. Plasma rounds slammed into it. Sparks and blood sprayed. The beast roared, low and deep, like a ship hull splitting under pressure, and swatted a power unit across the field. Hale dropped to one knee, sighted carefully, and fired a high-density charge into its left flank. It screeched, staggered. "Move!" she yelled. "Lure it toward the trench!" The bait plan had been drafted 2 days ago, half-jokingly, when Reyes said, "If we run into a Godzilla, I vote we drop it into the power ditch." Now, it wasn't a joke. Kieran and Reyes zigzagged across the compound, firing in timed bursts, baiting it toward the trench's edge. The creature lunged, and missed. Its bulk crashed down into the trench, taking half the south wall with it. Steam erupted as its body collided with the thermogenic coils lining the pit. It writhed, bellowed, then went still. Silence returned like a snapped string. The storm raged overhead. But inside the perimeter, no one moved for several seconds. Then Reyes said, "I think we just killed a god." "No," Hale muttered, lowering her rifle. "We killed the problem." She keyed her comm. "Get that thing on camera. Full scan. The Concord needs to see what happens when you throw monsters at monsters." The next morning, with the storm broken and solar light bleeding weakly through the clouds, the creature's body lay half-fused to the trench wall. Analysis drones buzzed around it. Its hide was dense with adaptive cells. Resistant to energy. Impervious to small arms. Evolved in perfect isolation. Kieran stood over it, chewing nutrient gum. "This thing's been top of the food chain for centuries." "Not anymore," Hale said. A notification pinged. "Incoming transmission. Varn Threx, priority channel." She stepped into the comm tent. His image appeared, holographic still, sterile. "You violated the passive engagement directive," he said. "It attacked first. You provoke native wildlife with construction activity." "We built walls," she replied flatly. "That's called not dying." Varn didn't blink, he couldn't. But his tone sharpened. "The footage of your encounter is circulating. Some Concord species now view Earth's conduct as exemplary. This could destabilize cohesion." She narrowed her eyes. "You're afraid of what this proves." "I fear disorder." Hale leaned in close to the hologram. "Then keep watching. Because this planet's not done, and neither are we." The feed cut. Later that night, the squad gathered around a fire pit made from fused volcanic glass. The atmosphere was finally stable enough for brief, unsealed air. Rowan approached Hale again, hesitant. "About before the beacon." She shook her head. "You didn't press it. That's what counts." He looked toward the creature's corpse, still partially visible in the trench. "Why are we even here?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. Then, "Because they thought this place would break us." "And?" She looked up at the stars, distant, cold, unbothered. "We're still standing." In orbit, Concord analysts replayed the footage 1,000 times. A human squad, outnumbered and outgunned by planetary evolution itself, had survived. No, had adapted. For the first time, Concord Protocol didn't have an answer. And Varn Threx realized something chilling. If humans could tame a death world, what could stop them from taming anything else? The sky was bleeding fire. Magnetic pulses warped the clouds into jagged streaks of color, orange, green, electric blue. One by one, the comm relays across outpost data failed. Screens went dark. Signals died mid-transmission. The only working channel buzz was static and an occasional flicker of a warning. System degradation, total communication failure imminent. Commander Soraya Hale stood in the relay tower, eyes locked on the last active uplink node, barely holding above the storm's fury. She tapped her comm, but no response came back. No chatter. No diagnostics. Just silence. The death world had waited for them to feel comfortable. Then it struck where it hurt most. Reyes, report, she snapped. Southern towers fried, came the response, breathless. Lightning bolt right through the relay. Kieran's trying to reroute, but we're losing power faster than we can patch it. We have 30 minutes max, she muttered. After that, we're offline. No cameras. No uplinks. No record we ever made it. She turned. Her team was huddled near the console, mud-caked, ash-smeared, and tense. Rowan was still limping from the trench collapse 2 nights ago. Kieran had 2 fingers splinted. Nobody had slept in over a day. Eyes on me, she said. If we go dark now, they'll erase everything. Pretend we failed. Pretend this planet beat us. That's not happening. Reyes stepped forward, voice hoarse. What's the plan, Commander? We fixed the high tower. Manually. Direct line to the Concorde fleet. I'll go. Kieran blinked. Alone? The tower's on top of a ridge crawling with storm beasts and lightning spires. I know, she said. But they'll expect a broadcast. We're going to give them one. Outside, the storm screamed across the plains. Acid rain hissed on the steel scaffolding. Hail moved fast, weaving through debris fields, ducking under jagged formations, her gears sparking under the electromagnetic surge. Wind tore at her. Her visor glitched. Her boots slipped on black stone. A low growl rolled through the darkness. She didn't slow down. The tower loomed ahead, a broken needle wrapped in shattered solar panels. The transmitter housing sparked weakly, rotating in half-jerks. She climbed without hesitation. Every rung burned cold against her gloves. Below her, something massive circled in the dark. Lightning cracked. She kept climbing. At the top, she yanked the manual override panel open. The core was partially melted. One chance. One signal. She attached her wrist module directly. Live transmission, initializing. 10 seconds. 5. A red light blinked once. She looked into the camera. No filters. No script. Just blood, dust, and human eyes. Concorde, she said, voice calm. This is Commander Soraya Hale, Earth's representative on Vardesh 9. You wanted to know if we survived. She turned the camera, showing the glowing ruins below, the fractured horizon, the trenches lined with harvested biofuel, the predators staked at the gates. We didn't survive. We conquered. She looked back at the lens. You sent us to die. You called this place impossible. But you forgot one thing. Earth trained us in impossible. Your galaxy calls it a death world. We call it Tuesday. She paused, then continued. We built outposts. We grew food in acid-rich soil. We tamed the apex predator. We turned biohostile gas into breathable air. We did it without support. Without mercy. And without quitting. The camera shook as another pulse hit the tower. She leaned closer. If you're still doubting our place in your Concorde, then you're not afraid of what we are, you're afraid of what we'll become. And you should be. She reached down, flicked the final switch. Transmission complete. The signal burned into the Concorde's primary channel before the uplink went dead. In orbit, silence held the council chamber like a sealed tomb. Dozens of species viewed the footage in real time. There were no edits. No special effects. Just raw, brutal footage of humans standing in the center of extinction, and thriving. Varn Threx remained motionless. Several delegates leaned forward. A few whispered to aides. One Jareen blinked in reverence. She did it, someone muttered. The Hylexi executor finally moved. Begin tribunal proceedings. Later that cycle, Soraya stood before the Concorde Council, holographically, armor scorched and arms still bandaged from the climb. Behind her were her people, standing tall despite burns, wounds, and days without rest. Threx stepped forward. You violated Ecological Preservation Code 47. You engaged in lethal conflict with native life. You tampered with atmospheric protocols. She didn't blink. You gave us a death sentence, she said. We gave you a blueprint. He paused. Earth's methods are disruptive. Our methods work, she snapped. You think we're wild because we refuse to fail quietly. But failure isn't what you fear. It's what comes after we succeed. Another delegate leaned forward. Commander Hale, are you saying Vardesh 9 is now habitable? Partially, she said. More than you ever thought it could be. More than any of you tried. The vote was called. Dozens of lights blinked across the chamber. Red. Silver. Green. The result flashed. Majority consensus. Earth will remain in the Concord. Mission recognized as a success. Protocol review pending. ***. Some applauded. Some didn't. Back on the planet, the storms finally broke. Clear sky peeked through for the first time since they'd landed. Faint light fell on the trenches, the towers, the blackened bones of monsters long dead. The camp buzzed with restrained relief. Reyes looked up at the sky. Think it's over? Hale shrugged. No. It's just started. Rowan joined her at the edge of the ridge. So what now? She smiled faintly. Now we prepare. Because the next death world they send us to? It's going to be worse. He laughed. Good. I was getting bored. Above them, the satellite rebooted. A green light flickered online. Transmission ready? Humanity had spoken. The galaxy was listening. New arc or title next?